Welcome. I'm Danielle Sally.
And I'm Eva Fusa.
And you're listening to Ghost Boss, stories about the freelance afterlife.
Hi.
Hi, Eva. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm just okay. Yeah. You know how we've been doing this thing where I get all my sleep? Like I've been getting good night's sleep before the podcast. No, not this week.
No. How much you got? Should I even ask?
Oh, God. It was like under 6 hours.
Ooh.
I know.
I don't do well.
I know.
Probably don't do well with less than 9, but I never get 9. But I do. I will say my husband and I alternate weekends.
Nice.
So Saturday's my day to sleep in.
Nice.
Sunday's his day to sleep in. And I'll get a solid 10 or more.
Oh my God.
But it makes up for all
Sure.
the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So I'm in pain hearing you got less than 6.
No. I know. That's why I texted you when I woke up this morning and said, "Are we recording today?"
I was and I just respond. I was on my way to school drop off at 10. I didn't even say yes. I was 10 a.m.
Yes. So I did not get enough sleep last night because I like to be late to the party.
Yeah.
So I started binge watching a show that's been on the air for 4 years.
Well, so the funny thing is you posted it. Was it Succession?
It's Succession.
Okay, so you posted about it. I was I'm real late to the party. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
It's not on Bravo.
It's not on Bravo. It's on HBO.
I kind of limit myself, and that's fine.
Yeah. I tried to start watching it a couple years ago and just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And now I started watching it a couple days ago, and it's so good. I have a hard time getting into shows because I get distracted.
Yeah.
But I put down my knitting twice last night watching the show. I stayed up past midnight watching it.
I will say, I say I only watch Bravo. On Netflix, there is a show called Lupin. And I probably said that horribly. Sorry, anyone French listening, but it is just so good.
Yeah.
My husband and I get really, really into it.
Yeah.
It's over, but if you ever have time, go watch it. Now it is dubbed in English because it's originally done in French.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't bother you, it doesn't
bother me.
I watch a lot of stuff like that. So if that doesn't bother you, you should check that out. It's really good.
Is it 3 or 4 seasons deep? Because that seems to be my metric of what.
I'm trying to recall. I feel like that was the 4th season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I tend to watch shows after they've been on for a while.
Yeah. Because then you can really binge it.
Well, you can really binge it. But also I think it's because a little bit subconsciously and maybe consciously, though, if I'm talking about it, I fell in love with a show called Carnival when I was in college. It's on HBO. It's one of the best shows HBO's ever done. Top 3. It's incredible.
It's a big statement.
It is. It is. Go watch it. But I'm gonna manage your expectations.
Okay.
Well, first off, it's about a traveling carnival during the Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
And it has the bigger theme is the battle of good and evil. The Alpha and the Omega are traveling along the way and they cross paths. And the last scene of season 2, they meet up in a cornfield and it's the battle of the Alpha and the Omega.
Okay.
It was written for 6 seasons. They stopped making it after season 2.
No.
Yes.
That's the worst.
I'm so upset. Still, 15 years later, I'm so upset. And I think that's why they stopped making it, partially because it was very expensive to produce. There were 5,000 people to costume for each season. And it's not like Succession or a more modern show where you can just go buy these clothes. They handmade these clothes and put them out in the desert to age them. And it's there's a tarot theme. You'd actually probably really like it. It's beautifully done. But it was $4 million per episode to make this thing.
Wow.
It was so expensive. So they stopped making it. And I think ever since then I've had trust issues with shows.
Sure, you never know when they're just going to disappear. You need to make sure they're going to
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I also watched Yellowstone last year, after it come out. If you just cut off Yellowstone at some point, that would have been fine. But they wrote Carnival for 6 seasons. They wrote all 6 seasons and they stopped after season 2. So
a bunch of quitters.
I got trust issues. So anyways, I was up late watching Succession.
Yeah.
So no regrets, but I'm very tired today.
There you go. I don't blame you. So speaking of shows quitting.
Yeah. Hey!
We wanted to talk about our stories of why and how we decided to quit our jobs and jump into freelance full time.
Yeah.
I think both of us get this question a lot. of why did you do it? Were you scared? You're so brave, blah, 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 all the things.
Yeah.
And we thought, let's tell our story.
Yeah.
Because someone listening to this might resonate with our stories, and they might be thinking about going full-time freelance, or they might be like, oh, I can't do it. So we want to share our stories and why we did it. But we are at a important milestone for you,
yes,
Eva.
Yes.
So tell them all what the milestone is.
I quit my job 4 years ago yesterday.
Hey.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So January 9th of 2020 is when I put in my notice. My last day at my full-time job was February 13th, 2020. Yes. The world shut down on March 13th, 2020.
Bad time.
It was a big 60 days, y'all.
A lot of panicking, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I was panicking without quitting my job.
Sure. But yeah, so I quit my job 4 years ago yesterday.
Yes.
People ask me all the time, how did you know? When did you make the decision? So I'd made the decision 2 or 3 months prior.
Okay.
And so I started kind of figuring out my branding, which for somebody who does branding professionally, I did my branding so fast because there was an event coming up and I didn't have my LLC set up yet. I didn't have a lot of stuff done yet, but I was like, okay, but I can buy a domain. I think I had a networking event coming up in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can buy the domain. I can set up the email and I can print some business cards and I can soft launch this thing. So,
and you're a designer. So you're like, if I need to change the logo later.
And I did. I 1,000% did. I 1,000%
exactly.
did. So in November of 2019 is when I decided to do it. I made a very quick logo. I already had a portfolio site up.
Yes.
So it was not hard for me to do that. And I set up my email domain, and then in January I left. So how did I get to that decision?
Yes. Let's talk about that.
I think everybody's story is a little different.
Right.
I had just, I was at a midpoint in my career.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been where I was working for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of, outgrown what was possible there, which is it happens with a lot of teams.
A lot of teams. And it says nothing about the company.
No,
it just
absolutely
happens
not.
a lot.
Yeah. So, I could keep kind of growing in that pot or I could move on. And honestly, when I first decided to freelance, I'd freelanced between jobs before. Every designer has. And I'd freelanced on the side while working. This is the first time I set up an LLC and did the things.
Yeah. Made it official.
But I fully planned initially to try it for 6 months. And if it didn't work, I was going to go back.
Sure.
Not to my old job, but I was going to go find
another full-time job. Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And
no one was hiring.
Nobody was. Well, and I have a young child.
Mm-hmm.
He had no childcare at the time.
Yeah, it was tough.
There were some logistical things that I don't know how I would have gone back.
Yeah.
At that 6 month mark that I initially planned.
We had terrible storms in Columbia yesterday.
Yep.
And we did e-learning. Mm-hmm. E-learning's so triggering now.
Yeah, everybody's like, it's a flashback. It's a flashback.
I don't miss these days. And I instantly feel bad for the teachers.
Yeah.
If it's this triggering for me, it's probably super triggering for them. So.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I do not miss the days of the pandemic when we were trying to fix it all. But again, I can't imagine also trying to start my own company.
Yeah.
During that time frame.
Yeah. It was not great.
Yeah.
It was not great. But yeah, so my original plan was I'm going to try it for 6 months.
Sure.
See how it goes. Not knowing the pandemic was coming.
Right.
And then some really great fellow freelancers already established in Columbia gave me lots of advice. And one of them in particular, Tim Floyd.
Yes.
We talked about him before. Tim specifically told me, he's like, you've picked a great time in your career to do this.
I agree.
Because you have, and I think I may have told you the same thing when
I had the same conversation with him and he said that. And I was like, I agree.
Yeah. He was like, it's the sweet spot in your career where you have 10 to 15 years of experience.
Yes.
So you have enough chops to kind of prove who you are. You have a very wide portfolio of work. You have a lot of connections.
Right.
You know what you're doing. And knowing what you're doing is not even about design. You know what you're doing in client management. You know what you're doing with a hot project. You know what you're doing to navigate getting buy-in, right? You know how to do all that. He's like, but you're also at a point in your career where if this doesn't work out, you still are in a very hireable position.
Yeah.
I think trying to do this, and certainly this is just my perspective about where I was.
Yes.
Because I don't want anybody to feel like this is the only time you can do it.
Right. No.
But for me, if I had tried to do this 10 years prior, I don't think I would have been this successful.
I've made that same comment.
Yeah.
And I considered it too, because during the recession of 2008, I ended up.
That's when I freelanced for a little bit when I was between jobs.
Exactly.
It wasn't 2008 for me. It was 2009. But yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. The company kept it going till like 2011. And then I lost my job. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I could freelance full time. Yep. And I just didn't have anywhere near the connections that I do at this point in my career.
Yeah.
And I didn't have nearly the experience that I had at this point in my career. And I think back, I'm like, I'm really glad that I decided to just go back into the workplace, find a job, learn a lot of things. You know, I got web development jobs. And, you know, if I would have went freelance when I did, I probably wouldn't have taken that career path of learning so much about like web development and UX design and things like that. It could have been a completely different designer at this point. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that I stayed full time at that age. So I'm kind of agree with you. I'm glad that I waited. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that's necessarily the story for everyone.
No, absolutely not. I know a lot of people who freelance who are significantly earlier on in their career. You know, I'm glad I didn't do it too early.
Yes.
I'm really glad I did it now.
Right.
It's turned out to be not only professionally one of the best decisions I've ever made, but personally one of the best decisions I've ever made. I am able to be the mom that I want to be.
Yeah, that's a huge part.
It's massive. And it's funny. I've been asked to come speak at a career day at a school in a couple weeks. I'm very excited about it.
Cool.
I'm trying to figure out how do I look cool in front of middle schoolers.
Don't wear skinny jeans.
I can't wear skinny jeans. Do I take a Stanley with me? I don't know.
Currently wearing.
I'm not wearing skinny jeans. I'm doing all right, and my sweater is cropped. All right, I think I'm doing okay. But one of the things they ask you to cover is like, what does your day to day look like? Yeah, and I'm just gonna have to tell them like every day looks different.
Well, and I said that even when I was at the agency, right? Because it's one of the number one questions of the students coming in shadow. Like, what's your day look like? Whew, I don't know. Depends on the day, depends on the client, depends on the project. Every day is different. And freelancing is very much that way too. Like it just totally depends on what you're working on.
I will say I do feel like I had more day-to-day consistency as far as where I probably was.
Sure.
Like when I had an office job, so I was likely at the office.
Yeah.
If I wasn't at the office, I was probably like if I was on a shoot with an agency or doing a professional development event or what have you, I would likely be back at the office later that day. Or you know what I mean?
Go back.
The office was like a home base.
Yep.
Right. And this is all before pandemic where lots of people started working remotely.
Yes.
Now I don't know, between client meetings and recording a podcast and getting work in, and it's the beginning of the year. I got to fix my accounting from 2023. It's all in there. I just got to organize it. It depends. Like I feel like my day looks a lot more varied now than it did when I was in an office.
That makes sense.
Because I don't have a home base I have to go to.
Yeah, that's right.
My home base is my home.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's how that's a long roundabout way about how I got here. So, I know sort of for the most part how you got.
Yes.
Because we talked a lot.
Sure.
But why don't you tell the audience, how did you decide when to become a ghost?
So, boo.
I just woke up and said, boo.
So my decision, we've talked about this. I have been doing this since full-time doing this since July 2023. So much more recently. Very much like Eva, you know, it's also been something that it's been on my mind for years of doing freelance full time. And I actually didn't take on that much, if any, freelance work when I was at the agency. One reason, our contract, I have to get it all approved.
Oh, really? Well, that's a big in-house versus agency difference. Nobody cared. I worked for the hospital association. Nobody cared if I was making menus on the side.
But also I knew how busy I was. And I was just like, I don't know. And so I always questioned, do I really want to do freelance on top of everything? Sure. And then I kind of hit a point in my career at the agency and I loved working there. Yeah. I wouldn't have worked there for 10 years if I didn't love working there. And I just reached a point where is my career path the direction that I still want it to go? Yeah. And am I doing what I want to do? And can I get to do more of what I want to do.
Yeah.
And really hit all the bells and whistles and check boxes that I'm looking for in my career as far as growth and personally.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do all that? And I reached a point where I was happy with my job.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed my team.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed everyone I worked with.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think what the biggest thing that made me decide I'm going to do this was flexibility in the work I was doing. Because keep in mind, at the agency, I kind of actually steered away from doing design and was in more of a management position for web development. And I love doing that. I've always had this like back and forth of design versus development and like all of that. And because I love both worlds. And it was great. But then I was like, I really miss design. And I miss getting to pick what I got to work on. And I miss getting to decide when I'm working and who I'm working with and just having all of that flexibility. And, you know, we brought up our kids and I just want more flexibility being a parent. Yeah. And all of that. And flexibility is really what it came down to. Yep. And I just decided, I think I'm going to do this. So it's funny that you mentioned, you kind of made your decision in November and
it took a couple months.
Yeah. So I did, I think it was probably around the holidays, November 2022, that I really...
You talked to me way early because I was like, I decided early. Like 2 days before Thanksgiving, like a week into January 1st, I was like, I'm out.
Yes. And so at that point, I'm like, I really think that this is something I want to do. Yeah. And I, by January 2023, said, I'm definitely doing this, created my LLC. And it was funny because I originally, when I was making this plan, I was like, 2024, I'll do this full time. And then when January got there, I was like, it's time. Oh yeah, it's time. And we've talked about too, I enjoy rounding milestones. I was going to hit my 10-year anniversary in May. So I was like, June's going to be here. I'm going to officially announce in June. Yeah. And then by July 1, my goal is work for myself. Yeah. So I did it and I'm glad I did. I'm thankful I did. I'm grateful I did. Yeah. Because everything that I wanted in my career, the reason that I decided to go freelance for that flexibility in my schedule, in my work and what I'm doing, I've gotten it all. Yeah. And I'm forever going to be grateful for that. Yeah. So one thing though that hit me recently is I was entering work for American Advertising Awards in our local market here in the Midlands. And it hit me. This is my first time entering work for myself, for my own company. Yeah. Normally, the first couple of weeks in January, at any agency, award time, it is a madhouse. I feel like any agency relates. Like, especially now that it's virtual, it's so much better. But back when we had to like print all the entries and label everything.
God, put them on pasteboards.
Oh, I just remember the floors would be covered in award entries and the production room would be a mess. And it was just like all the creatives looked like we were on too much coffee.
Well, you are. I mean, we are on any given. I'm on my second coffee today. We're always too caffeinated.
Like people in PR will walk by like, I really don't want to help them, but I'm going to have to help them. And it's just a madhouse. And this year, so we've entered for years and years and years of even like the first place I worked, we've always entered the American Advertising Awards. But this year was the first year that I entered work and it said Danielle Sally Creative. Yay. And that was really cool. Yeah. I think that was just one of my aha moments. And I'm like, you know what? This is cool. I'm doing this for myself. Will it win anything? Who knows? If it doesn't, I won't mention it on the podcast. But I feel proud about the work that was submitted. Yeah. And I think that's all I want. Yeah. I just want to feel really good about the work that I'm submitting. Yeah. But that was a cool moment.
Yeah. So I used to win a lot of awards, not specifically American Advertising Awards, but I won a lot of Wally Awards, which is like a healthcare, the Carolinas Healthcare PR and Marketing Society. Yes. Yes. So I used to win a lot of stuff from there, from the Hospital Association. Sure. Part of it is just, it's specific to healthcare. Yes. And so I could submit a lot of healthcare stuff. Yep. And two, I mean, you know, when you've worked all year for a company, you just have more stuff to pull from. Yes. I've talked about this 1,000 times. I do so much like unsexy B2B work.
Yeah. It's not stuff that you probably want to put in an award show, but
I mean, I submitted. I always submit. And it's just funny because when you look at my website, like for like 7 years, I'm like, sweet. I'm like bringing home all these awards and it's like cricket.
Nothing.
Because the American Advertising Awards is the hardest award to win.
Yes.
Right. Like statistically speaking, because of the tiered system and all that kind of stuff. I still do some healthcare work, but not in the categories that the Wally's covers.
Sure.
And I'm so diversified in the types of work that I do now that like the industry specific awards like don't really make sense anymore. So it's fine, but I always like to share the story when I talk about awards. So last year I submitted a bunch of stuff. The American Advertising Awards. We had in-person judging last year.
Yes.
So I submitted the things and then the judges come in and then after they're done like judging everything, we took them out to dinner.
Sure.
So we take them out to dinner. I know what I submitted. And because I helped because I'm on the board, I can see the scores. So I know the scores.
That was always the interesting part. Like when you're on the other side of it and like you can see you're helping with judging so you can see the scores and like you obviously can't say anything or whatnot. And it was just like, you got to see the truths.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. No, it's fine. And like, it was funny because we had all the physical entries out and then as things were dropping, like, score wise, we would pull them down, like narrowing the pack. And so funny because like every time somebody pulled one of my things, they're like, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's fine. Like really, it's fine. It's a big deal. So anyways, we go to dinner and we sit down and they don't know what my stuff is, but they were like, so how'd you do? And I was like, well, one of my brochures is the lowest thing you scored in the entire competition. I can't remember if I said that to Shane or if I said it to Kevin.
Yeah.
But you can imagine, but they're like, oh, and I was like,
and of course, like they feel bad because when you're in judging mode, because both you and I have judged shows before, like when you're in judging mode, you can't take anything personally, right? You're just like, you're looking at everything, you're judging by categories, you assign the score.
Yes.
But then when you meet the person, it's like, oh God, I'm sorry.
And they didn't score it like, because sometimes you look at scores and sometimes the scores mean like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's not what these scores were, right? Because to contextualize specifically for the American Advertising Awards, this is supposed to be exceptional work, like outstanding advertising.
Yes.
But when they said that, they were like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, no, it's fine because that specific brochure was my highest paying single project all year. So I think that gets into a larger conversation and we can certainly delve into this another time. But like awards are great. I know you're an Aries. It's fine. I know.
I need them, Eva. I need them.
I know it's fine. I'm a Pisces. It's cool, man. And I don't know what that means that I'm a Pisces, but you tell me what it means about why.
You're much calmer than me.
Am I? Yeah. I mean, yeah. So anyways, good work is still good work.
Yes.
As people who've judged.
Yes.
And as people who have been judged.
Yes.
And that's applicable not just to our work, but to our lives.
In general.
Hey. It's all about who's looking at it.
Yes.
And it's about who your competition is.
That's right.
So,
you don't know who your competition's going to be when you enter it.
You don't. So, awards are great.
Yes.
They are not to live and die by, but they're pretty cool. I know. It's okay. You just wait.
I just like them.
I mean, I felt the same way when I worked for a company and I could submit a ton of stuff.
Yes.
I do feel like it's different too, just as a freelancer, you work on smaller things.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I submitted some stuff for this year, but some work I'm doing right now, I feel so much stronger about than what I did in 23. And it's just the assignment I got.
I'll say this too. When I was an agency, it came down end of the year, we would do a total of how many awards we got. Mm-hmm. And we always wanted to beat the previous year.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I feel like winning one trophy as a freelancer is going to mean so much more to me than winning 50 or more when I was working for someone else.
Yeah.
It just hits so much different.
Yeah. I have yet to win one as a freelancer.
Yeah, but you're going to.
No, I am. Maybe this year.
Yeah.
I think any accomplishment I have as a freelancer always feels so much more significant.
Yes.
Because it's just me.
Yes.
It's just me.
It's just you doing it.
Yeah.
And everything. The admin work, the project work, the account management work. You're responsible for all of it. So it just hits different.
Yeah, for sure.
So Eva, we talked a long time and we kind of rambled on about awards. Sorry, I love trophies.
We're great.
But elevator pitch.
Yeah.
How do you know when it's time to go freelance full time?
You need to look at your career.
Yes.
And when I say career, I just mean like your skill set, your portfolio, kind of everything that encompasses that, your volunteer work, your board service, all of that.
All the things.
And you got to look and find that sweet spot between, I have a lot of opportunity that I can capitalize on now.
That's right.
So it's really just about, there's no one size fits all answer. I do think mid-career is a wonderful time to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out well for both of us.
Yeah. But mid-career for somebody else might be sooner than that. Or they may have worked somewhere where they got a ton of experience in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. But I think the key of what I'm hearing you say is make sure that you're confident with the experience that you have in order to leave a company to do it all by yourself.
Yes,
absolutely.
And have a plan B. I mean, I had a plan B if it didn't
always
work
have
out.
a plan B.
Have a plan B if it doesn't work out. And so just, find the sweet spot.
Yes.
And have a plan B.
That's right. And if you're questioning going freelance full time or thinking about that, feel free to DM us on Instagram or email us at info@ghostbosspodcast.com. We'll take your questions. We'll listen to you and we'll give you our feedback. Now, we are not professional feedback givers, but we have opinions.
I mean, we're pretty good at this.
We're good, right?
Also, if you are thinking of making the transition to freelancing full time, there are some logistical stuff on the back end. I told Danielle a lot about this. She now knows all of this, but there's some business stuff you have to set up. You got to get an LLC. Maybe not an LLC. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but that's what I did.
Yes.
You need a business account.
Right.
You need to, set up a couple of other different things. So if you are, I'm not offering legal business advice.
No.
But, people like us can always kind of give you a big broad, these are the steps that we took.
Yes. Well, and to add to that, I think one of the best things that I have going freelance was that I had mentors in place and colleagues that I can lean on for advice. You being one of them.
Oh,
Jamal Milner being one of them.
Yeah.
Jamal's given me some of the best advice, and he's been doing this, running his own business for I think 20 some years now.
Yeah.
So he was kind of giving me here's all the things I wish someone told me when I was starting off, because everyone felt like I was going to fail and I want you to succeed.
Yeah.
And so here's all the things. But having mentors like that, other people who are doing freelance full time, getting their advice, things like that, I think's great. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for this week. We'll be back next week with more. If you have any topic suggestions that you would like to throw at us, DM us on Instagram. We'll make sure we put those in our rotation. But that's it, everyone.
I can talk about almost anything. Throw it at me, y'all.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Talk soon. Bye. Remember to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Ghost Boss Podcast. And also please like and review us on your favorite podcast app.